There's a chill in the air and leaves are falling. Is there a better time of year to think of time travel and romance? Well, maybe, maybe not. Stay tuned and we'll find out. I'm Joseph Piper and this is Coming Attractions. I'm Joseph Piper. Welcome to the television production studios of Metropolitan Community College. On Friday, November 4th, Bruce Crawford will present his 39th tribute to classic films at Omaha's Joslin Art Museum at 7 p.m. Filling the silver screen this time will be a 1980 fantasy romance masterpiece with something of a cult following. Here to talk about the film and the event is Omaha's classic film aficionado, Bruce Crawford. Welcome, Bruce. Thanks for coming again.
Great to be on again.
I'll let you reveal, well, first let's say this is going to be a benefit. This is your 39th event,
yes, sir.
And it'll be a benefit for the Kidney Foundation.
Nebraska Kidney Association.
What the film is and who the guest is.
Well, the film, of course, is, when you think of 1980 romance fantasies, there's only one that can come to mind, and that's, of course, Somewhere in Time, written by the great fantasy and science fiction author Richard Matheson, who just recently passed away the past year, famous also for his Twilight Zone work. And our guest is one of the great stars of film and television, an icon, is the great Jane Seymour, who will be making her public appearance, a rare public appearance. And what makes it even more fantastic is she's become an acclaimed painter and sculptor. She's marketed herself in so many areas, as you know. There are open hearts and books and such. And she's going to have a book and art sale in the Fountain Court lobby at the Joslin. It's a meet and greet, and if people want to get an autograph, they can purchase one of her books, very reasonable, or one of her beautiful art prints. She's got art that's in galleries across the nation and around the world. She's become quite an acclaimed fine artist as well. It'll be quite a night.
So can you give a synopsis of the film?
Well, it's a story played by the late, great Christopher Reeve. We don't want to forget, this is kind of a salute to him, because he died at a young age, and tragically, as we know. And it's about a man who falls in love with a photograph of a woman from 1912, and it's Jane Seymour, who was in Mackinac Island, well, you know, the Grand Hotel, which has become famous because of this movie up in Michigan. And it's a beautiful place. It's still set back in time at the Edwardian era.
Well, I guess they won't allow cars.
I don't think they will. No, I think it's still horses and buggies, yes. And he's obsessed with her, and he wishes himself back in time because he's so in love with this woman and wants to meet her. It's just an amazing film. It's a beautiful story. It's very much inspired by, in some ways, you know, Wuthering Heights has some inspiration you can see there, and of course the great romance classic, Joseph Mankiewicz's The Ghost of Mrs. Muir with Rex Harrison and Gene Tierney, about love transcending time and death. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is about too. It's a variation on that theme. A beautiful movie, got a huge following.
I had read that it's reminiscent of Laura too, in a way, because he
yes.
falls in love with her image, and as he learns more about her life and her career,
yes.
he becomes more involved in
yes.
in her.
Yeah, there's parallels to that as well. Of course, in Laura, the character they thought was murdered, or was attempted to be murdered. Right. But it's similar in that sense of falling in love with an image. But it has inspirations from 2 or 3 different sources. That's true, and they're very great sources. You couldn't ask for better.
Well, and the Jane Seymour character is based on a actress in the turn of the century named Maud Adams, or something.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe that's true. Yes.
Was raised in Indiana, maybe?
I think so. I'm not quite sure about that, but you're probably right.
You talked about the author. How many Twilight Zone episodes did he do?
I can't begin to count. It's got to be a couple of dozen, maybe more than that. I could be way off. But he's done so many famous stories that are so well known to people. I think the Nightmare at 30,000 Feet with William Shatner, I think that, you know, the creature landing on the wing, that's a Richard Matheson. He wrote so many great stories. He was a brilliant, brilliant writer and a great companion to Rod Serling when it came to writing for that. But he also had a great romantic side to him, and that was his inspiration, you know, is like the stories we just said, the other films and stories that inspired Somewhere in Time.
And in the book that he wrote is Bid Time Return, that's
yes.
the name of it,
yes.
from 1960,
yes.
I believe?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when this came out, it was not really a big hit.
No.
No.
It grew, though, huge.
Is this an old-fashioned film? I mean, this
Very
is
much
1980. So. Is it different? Like, when you put it in the the body of work, like what Hollywood was producing in the late 70s, early 80s. Was
Right.
it an oddball picture, or was it?
It's a throwback because it could have been made in any time. It could have been made in the 30s, 40s, or 50s, early 60s. It
Okay.
has that look. There's nothing obscene. There's no vulgarity. There's no violence to speak of. Really, I mean, there's nothing. The only thing that belies its age is the fact that that Jane Seymour and Christopher Reeve are modern era people and actors. Otherwise, it could have been filmed any time. It has that old-fashioned quality. And the music score by John Barry is legendary. It's hauntingly beautiful.
Right,
So one of his
that
greatest.
was like one of the most popular movie scores ever.
Yes,
at least
it is
by
one of the-
him.
Yes,
or
one of the
at
most
least-
popular scores he ever did. Absolutely, and it's just a great score. And it's a very beautiful movie, and it really.
And that's based on Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody and a theme of Paganini.
Well, that's what they say. Yeah, I don't know if Mr.
okay.
Barry would say that. Maybe he did.
So, did that just? I mean, is that what kind of brought the film to life? That soundtrack, you think?
It really, as I believe in film music, is very important to a movie and it contributes greatly to its success. There's no question that Barry's score, and for everything he ever did for that matter, but for this film in particular, I think it really gave it an extended life, because when you hear the music, it just takes you right back to that film. And it's typical Barry. You can hear similarities to some of his other scores out of Africa, maybe a little bit, and some other things that came after. But it is unique. It still stands out amongst the others. But I really think you're right that it really helped elevate the film and gives it its longer
And
appeal.
he was kind of a last-minute addition, correct?
I believe
mean,
so.
Jane Seymour knew him,
Yes,
and they were trying to find somebody, but the budget was sort of low. So
and he did it for much
for
less.
a percentage of the profits of the
Yes,
film.
and of course the record sales
the
were
record-
huge,
yeah, and it
and still
did quite
are.
well, yeah.
On CD, it's still a very popular soundtrack.
So I guess my question was, how is this film different from, or similar in aesthetic from the popular film genres that were happening in the 70s and the 80s?
Well, it wasn't so nihilistic. It wasn't like The Deer Hunter or like Raging Bull, films of that same era. Those are much different type of films, much
Sure.
harder, grittier films. This was a throwback. And it was not, well, that's why it wasn't so successful at first, because it really didn't find its audience yet, because that was still the time, the late 70s, early 80s was still that time of a grittier type of film.
Why do you think it has a cult following? What do you think that's
It's
about?
so romantic, and it's a beloved film by men and women, but women really have a huge love for this film. They identify a lot with the Jane Seymour character.
Do you think also, I just thought about this the other day, that this sort of interest today in fantasy and Comic-Con and all that stuff,
Yes.
that those types are kind of interested in this because of the time travel?
Well, there's a time
aspect
travel
of
element,
it?
absolutely, and also not only that, not only has that fantasy element to it, but so does Wuthering Heights to some extent. It's a ghost, and Ghost of Mrs. Muir obviously has that same fantasy element to it. But what transcends all of that, though, you're right though, because it does have an appeal for that sort of time travel, but it also has that it's such a deeply romantic movie. And it really affects people very, very. I've seen people, women friends of mine, that over the years watch the film, and it deeply affects them. And I can see why, because it just touches you in a unique way. And you don't see that in films, not only of that era, but even today. It's very rarely achieved, and that was another thing that built upon its popular following to this day, is that it touches a nerve in people, clearly.
So, at the time, Roger Ebert said, the movie surrounds its love story with such boring mumbo-jumbo about time travel that we finally just don't care.
And it's funny, he revised that a few years later because he loved the film later. Isn't that funny how that is? Even It's a Wonderful Life was a flop in the pan, and now, of course, it's revered as the greatest Christmas film of all time. It's strange how that is, but that's true. That applies to this film as well.
And he just described Jane Seymour as preternaturally beautiful.
Now, I would agree with that. She is supernaturally beautiful.
And she's in all the 1910 scenes, or
Yeah, Edwardian era.
she's never in the contemporary
No,
scene.
no.
And those were filmed, I guess, on a different stock of film that gave a different look and then the contemporary scenes were filmed on a much crisper, more.
Well, yeah, it was, I think, also probably the type of lenses and filters that were used as well. It gave it a dreamier look. I think that was the diffusion in the camera lens to give it. Vilmos Zsigmond was a great cinematographer. Did that in Close Encounters of the Third Kind and in Brian De Palma's Obsession. A dream-like quality about it, and this was a dream. You know,
Because there's no big special effects in this, right?
None.
No, yeah.
Yes, and it doesn't need it. When you have
Right.
Jane Seymour and Christopher Reeve, two very beautiful people, but good people. There's a real warmth and genuineness and decency about their characters, and about them as real in real life. That's how they are as real people. They were really good. They are good people, in their private lives, their public lives. They're very giving, decent people, as Christopher Reeve certainly was after his tragic, especially after his tragic accident.
And I guess like Wizard of Oz, like we talked about with It's a Wonderful Life, cable television sort of made this
Huge.
because it
And DVDs,
yeah,
and,
DVDs.
and the soundtrack, of course, like you said, for this film, really got it going.
Is it you? Is it?
Yes. Are you all right?
Yes, I'm quite all right.
I'm sorry if I startled you.
No, you didn't start.
I think I...
So this was Christopher Reeve's first film after Superman. Do we have any thoughts on why he picked this as opposed to some of the other opportunities?
You know,
he had?
I haven't read to know for sure, but I can only guess it's something that I think obviously it appealed to him. And of course, working with Jane Seymour would be one reason he wanted to do the film too. But it was, again, it's a fantasy. You know, like you said, it's not quite comic book like Superman, but it's still a fantasy
Sure.
to go back in time. And I think probably appealed to him in the sense that it was romantic, and it was something that didn't require special effects. It was something that was a straight-on, well, it's a drama, a romantic drama.
It was nominated for an Oscar for costume design. That was the only Oscar it was nominated for. What, talk about a little bit more about Jane Seymour and Christopher Reeve's careers.
Well, Jane Seymour, of course, you know, when you think about her earlier time, she was in Live and Let Die, the James Bond classic from the 70s, and she was fantastic in that. And then for me, I have my personal connection with her is through Ray Harryhausen, as you know, was my close friend and mentor in many ways.
Sure.
And she was in Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger with Patrick Wayne, which was a big hit fantasy film for her. And she loved the film. She loved playing. There's great scenes of the stop motion of her playing chess with the stop motion puppet baboon, which of course looks like a real baboon in the film. She was just awestruck by what Ray Harryhausen could do. And so she was just really thrilled to be in the film and to work with him. And so that was my connection too, is that she knows that I was very close to him and the family, still am. And that film was very successful for her too, because she played a fantasy character, a princess. She's very beautiful in it, of course. And then she went on to do so much else. She went on to bigger and better things. And television, particularly, as you know, she's become iconic. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, so many TV films and other things she's done.
How many years was that on, Dr. Quinn,
Oh, God, it's got to be, I don't know, 7, 8 years, quite a while. Had a
It
long,
was a hit series
yeah.
for CBS.
It's still being rerun all
and
the
that
time.
was unusual because Westerns weren't really popular at that time. It was like
Yes.
unusual. Was this Sinbad movie one of her first
It's,
big
well,
films?
it came 4 years after Live and Let Die, but it was a big success. Yeah, it was, it was a special effects movie, she obviously with Ray Harryhausen, and I enjoy hearing her talk about it. She just still is in awe of what, the special effects are inundated today, but this was, as we know, done by hand,
Yeah.
stop motion. It just still blows her away to watch her playing chess with a baboon that didn't really exist. So that's still something that resonates with her to this day.
In the Bond movie, is she a Bond girl? In that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bond girl. Okay. And then Christopher Reeve. This was his, like I said, his first film after Superman, which was his big
Breakthrough
break.
film, yeah.
And then how many films did he do after this before he?
Well, he did Superman 2, obviously. I can't think, well, he did quite a few films because the accident didn't happen until 1995, so it was like 15 years after this. So he had quite a long career during that time, but after the accident in 95, of course, everything changed, as we know. And he only lived, I think, barely 10 years after that. So it just was it's just a tragic loss still.
Sure.
It's still something people feel to this day, because it's still hard to imagine that he's gone. You can't really believe that this young guy, this great-looking, kind, gentle, wonderful man, because he was a great guy. People speak nothing about him but high praise, but he was a genuinely good person. And it's just tragic to this day. And it's really heartbreaking to think that he's gone, because he died so young, He was barely 50, I think, if even that. And but his career flourished, and was just he was very successful until the accident, which is hard to believe that's been 21 years ago already, but it's been that long.
And he was very close to Robin Williams, correct?
Very
Didn't they
close.
go to school together? Or?
Yes, they roomed together. I think they shared an apartment together when they were trying to get their careers going. You don't think of those two being together.
Not really.
But it's funny you say that, because back when their careers were getting started, Wally Cox, and Marlon Brando were actually close friends and shared an apartment too in Hollywood when they were in New York, I think it was, when they were starting. You wouldn't think of those two,
No, you don't.
but they were very close friends, and when they're getting their separate careers going. The same with Robin Williams and Christopher Reeve. It's a very similar kind of totally opposite type of people who became very close friends and shared a lot together.
This is a benefit for the Kidney Foundation.
Breast Kidney Association,
How
yes.
many times have you done benefits?
Oh
for
boy,
them
this
now?
has got to be probably the 15th or 16th.
For the
time.
Kidney Foundation.
For the Kidney Association, yeah.
Kidney Association.
Kidney Association, yeah, with Tim Neal, yes.
And the Kidney Association's mission is?
Well, they push screening, and they also push donors, because kidney transplants, there's a lot of renal issues with people, excuse me, and they're a very important organization, because it's the kidney function. Without it, we don't live very long.
Right.
And we don't think about it enough by drinking more water. So that's as we're doing here. I can't speak as well about it as Tim can, but by coming to the event, he will introduce the film. Well, introduce me, I should say, and I'll introduce the film. But he will discuss what they do and what the proceeds from the event helps them do, which is also to get information out to the public and also help do screening.
And for anybody that hasn't been to one of your events, that always occurs. Your
Yes, exactly.
benefactor, the charity that you
Yes.
work with, speaks before the event.
We have them come out and speak and welcome people and discuss what they do. And then they introduce me, and I host the film and the guest. And this time around, we were saying off camera, Jane is an accomplished artist of amazing stature already. And she has beautiful art prints and these fantastic books, Open Hearts books, and this fabulous art she does. Very impressionistic, like Monet or Van Gogh in some ways. And she's in galleries across the nation, I think even around the world. And for the first time ever at my events, my famous celebrity guest speaker is also going to have not only books to sell, but she's going to have her art prints of her fantastic art for sale. So if those folks who want to meet, she can do a meet and greet during and after the movie in the Fountain Court lobby. But if you'd like to get an autograph from her, you'd have to purchase one of her books, I think like maybe $15, $20, or one of her prints were more expensive, but they're beautiful art prints, and she'll sign them and autograph them for you.
Now, she'll talk before the film.
She'll introduce the
too,
movie, yes. Introduce the film, yes.
And that's usually 10, 15 minutes?
Or less, 5, 10 minutes.
Okay.
But the meet and greet, people can meet her and talk to her, and like I said, if they want to buy a book or a print, they can get an autograph from her.
Is there anything else about the film that you want to mention?
Well, like you said about the cult following, it seems to keep growing and growing and growing with each generation. It's hard to think of 1980 as being a classic film, but it is 36 years old.
Sure.
And it's hard to imagine that's that long ago, but it is considered a modern classic, if at the very least that much. And how it really, the Mackinac Island Grand Hotel has just the popularity of that place has just went through the roof because of the film's cult status and its popularity. They have huge reunions or get-togethers, you might call it, conventions, of Somewhere in Time at that hotel, and it draws hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people. It's just an enormous event they do every year.
That hotel is one of the National Trust's properties, like the so many great hotels in America kind of
Well,
thing.
certainly a landmark.
And it has the longest porch of any.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's,
Yes.
you know, but the original in the book, the hotel is the Coronado
And which was used in Some Like It Hot.
So,
They couldn't use it again. It wouldn't seem right.
Well, they said that they couldn't. I think what I read, the little bit I read, said that there was no way to avoid seeing antenna towers in the background.
Yes.
With that location, so they had to find some place really isolated, and it actually, because of the isolation of Mackinac Island and them not being allowed to have cars and
Perfect.
it made
Absolutely
it
perfect.
reinforced the sort of mood for everyone working on the film, and kind of added to the
ambiance.
Yeah, yeah.
And the whole environment. It became like the film crew felt like they were back in time.
Sure.
You know, you felt, you know, not only that the actors in the film get in character, but even the people behind the cameras felt in character, like they were working in a different era, because it is going to that island or going to that hotel is that you're in a different
back
era.
in a different time,
It's
right.
you are back in time literally. So it's just amazing how fortuitous it was, serendipitous that it all came together. Because the Coronado had already been well established in people's minds for Some Like It Hot anyway.
So it's a color film, and do we know what the aspect is? This a CinemaScope?
No,
it's not.
it's standard
CinemaScope, but
widescreen.
it's standard
Standard
widescreen
widescreen.
from that period. Okay.
Yeah, this was still used today. It's just a standard,
Okay.
well, almost 2-to-1. You know,
Okay.
it's a beautiful image.
This is your 39th event.
In 24 years, yes.
So how many more are you going to do?
Who knows? As long as there's the support from good folks like yourself to promote it, and sponsors who can cover the expenses, and good people like in the press and the media, and the public who buy our tickets, we'll keep doing it. We're now into the 80s.
Who's
almost
your?
with
I
the
don't know.
films.
Maybe I asked you this before when we've done this. Who's the guest you just want to get so bad? But
Well,
you just
Sophia
haven't named?
Loren would be one I'd love to have, and Robert De Niro I'd love to get, you know, still.
Do you
And
think that?
well, look who we've had. I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
Who would ever believe the guests we've had? I mean, it's just been
Sure.
a who's who of Hollywood history we've had, you know. So you never know. You can never say never, or you never can say it's impossible, because you just never know.
Now, do you start after this event to plan the
Oh, I'm
next one,
planning the
or are
next
they
one already.
always-
Yeah. They're always
Can you hint at
overlapping.
what that might be?
I have no idea
You
yet,
have
for
no
sure. I've got
idea.
different ideas, but we'll see. You never know what's going to come together, you know.
Okay.
You never know. You always do that to me every time.
Well, I always have suggestions too.
I know you do. I know you do. I listen to the suggestions.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see some people that you just don't see anymore before they go. you know,
Yes.
Before they're going, because there's just not many people left anymore.
Well, there's more than you'd realize. There's a lot
Yeah.
more. There's a lot more people realize. You know, there's a lot of even from the 30s. There's still Olivia de Havilland, amazingly, from Gone with the Wind, is still alive and going strong in Paris.
She's like how old?
100 years old this summer.
So I don't think she would travel back to Omaha.
She does. She comes
probably.
back on occasion,
Yeah.
but she's amazingly good shape. I saw her on TV. They had a birthday greeting for her in July for her 100th birthday, and she looked 20 years younger at least. It's just surprising.
Maybe you should have a contest or something to have people suggest who you should try to bring back.
Well, it
and see.
depends. You know, you can make all the suggestions in the world, but it depends on their availability, if
Right.
they're able to come back, if my date works with their date. You know, there's a lot of variables involved, so you just never know. You just never know.
Okay. I guess I can't think of anything else. Is there anything else you
Well,
want
I'd like to talk about more about Richard Matheson, if that's
Okay,
okay with
sure,
you.
yeah.
Because I really enjoy this man's work. He just passed away this past year or so. And not only is his work fabulous in the Twilight Zone, but he did short stories and novels. He's got to be one of the most accomplished short story writers. Him and Ray Bradbury are very close friends. And he's definitely on a level with Bradbury, maybe not as acclaimed or as quite as well known around the world as Bradbury, but definitely a brilliant writer. He also wrote the short story and the screenplay for The Incredible Shrinking Man, which is one of the great classic films, not just science fiction, one of the great classic films, period, ever. And that is a brilliant film. That holds up very well today. You know, 58 years later, that film still holds up
And that's
beautifully today.
1957,
57, 58.
right.
And it visually is impressive to look at even now. It just knocks you out. But the screenplay by Matheson just elevates it way above pulp sci-fi stuff. It's really a well-written, very philosophical story. Matheson has done so much, and that's one of the great achievements I think of his was that story and that screenplay for that film. Beautiful movie.
Was he happy with Somewhere in Time? With
Oh,
the
absolutely.
outcome?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
And
it's,
who-
like I said, his short stories books sold quite well.
And who
after that, too.
directed Somewhere in Time?
It's hard to pronounce his last name, but he also is well known for his work for Night Gallery. Speaking of Rod Serling,
Yeah.
and I can't pronounce the guy's name. I can't give
So
it
he did a
justice.
lot of episodes of the.
Did a lot of episodes. And
Yeah.
you think of the cult horror stuff, and then here this is something so different because it's so romantic. It's such a romantic story. He's not as well known as he probably should be, and I'm blanking out on his name right now because it's I
What
don't know.
other films? Did you do any films around that same time?
I'm
or-
not sure really. He's not. He really is kind of hit and miss. He's mostly known for his TV work.
TV work,
So it was
okay.
really a big jump for him to go into something like this. And it's bad for your audience because I can't think of his name right now. It's hard to pronounce his name. But he's a really, really talented fellow who I wish had done more and could do more because that's several years ago, and he really hasn't done much. You know, he's mostly known for his television work, which is sad because he really was more accomplished than that. And he had his talent range went further than that.
Sure. Let's go through the particulars again here. So once again, this is Friday, November 4th at 7 p.m. Bruce Crawford will present his 39th tribute to classic film at Omaha's Jocelyn Art Museum, Somewhere in Time, starring the late Christopher Reeve, with special guests for the evening, the film's co-star, well-known TV and film actress Jane Seymour. Now, during the screening, Miss Seymour will sit for a meet and greet, book signing, and art sale because outside of acting, Miss Seymour is known for her fine art, jewelry, and home furnishing designs. Jocelyn Art Museum is located at 2200 Dodge Street in Omaha, Nebraska. Tickets go on sale today. Now they're on sale?
Wednesday,
October 5th. At all Omaha area Hy-Vee stores.
Customer service
Tickets
counters,
are $23 at the customer service counters. And all the proceeds will benefit the Nebraska Kidney Association. For more information, you can call 402-932-7200 or visit www.omahafilmevent.com.
I'd like to say too that the director's name is I believe it's pronounced Gino Zwark. It's not an easy
Gino Zwart.
Gino Zwark. It's not an easy name to remember. That's why it was difficult trying to not just remember it but to pronounce it correctly. So I want to do him justice. But Jeannot and Szwa Zwark. I believe
Is
that's
that like
it's an unusual name. Or
Czech
French or
something?
I don't know what it
French
is, but he has a great talent, but it's pronounced. I believe it's pronounced Gino Zwark.
Okay, great. Bruce, thanks again for being here, and good luck on the 39th event.
And I hope to see you there.
You know, if you've never been to one of his events, I always say you should go because it's really fun to watch these films with a big audience, and you know, I
And a
wouldn't
great
want to meet
guest.
Jane Seymour. You know.
See her art too.
So I'm Joseph Piper. We'll see you again on Coming Attractions. Thank you for joining us.
All right. I thought I lost you.
Oh, never, 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 never.